All right. Well, welcome to the GameWired Atari Jaguar stream. I've been wondering how I'm going to do a stream here, and do I put on some kind of show for you guys? Do I try to pretend to be some sort of character? Do I try to be funny? Do I try to be crazy in some way? Not myself, but that's the whole thing. I put too much thought into it, and at the end of the day, I just got to make a stream. I just got to make a stream and just talk about games. That's what I want to do. That's the ultimate reason behind this. These streams is to talk about games. So I understand I don't have the greatest audio equipment. I'm not kidding. I am filming this off of a Mac, 2009 Mac, iMac, and so I have a camera, poor lighting, poor audio probably, so it's really nothing to write home about, but at least you guys get to see, right? I mean, you can see things in this video. It's not clear. I eventually would like to get some sort of 4K device to film, but I'm not a super editor either. You're not going to see, crazy edits, jump skips, anything cool like that. I've never taken a film class or any type of editing class, so you won't be seeing any of that. This is just 100% raw, unedited, talk about games. That's all it is. It's a talk about games. So in this episode, I really want to talk about the Atari Jaguar. I may have touched on it before. May have mentioned it in a couple of past videos, maybe I'll spare you the background. But who knows? Once I get started, I get started. So, yeah, the Atari Jaguar is, if you're watching this, you already know, it is a console that BS'd everybody, told everybody it was 64 bits. So of course, you, the consumer, myself, the consumer, is going to look at this console and say, wow, I need to get my hands on this. If it's 1993, you're hearing whispers about, this 64-bit console that's coming out, called the Atari Jaguar, and it's going to, be revolutionary. It's going to change everything. And so you were a little hyped, you knew it was Atari. So if you were a gaming fan, you were kind of pulling for Atari. They had a rough time out with the 5200 and the 7800, and you were hoping maybe Atari can come back and maybe take third place in the video game wars, behind Nintendo and Sega. Or who knows? Maybe they'll come out and be number one with this 64-bit console. Maybe they'll topple over 3DO and the rumored at the time Sega Saturn and PlayStation. So you just didn't know what was going to happen. But if you were a fan of the underdog, you were hoping and pulling for maybe an Atari comeback. So that didn't happen. Long story short, that did not happen. It was a disaster. You can look up YouTube video. There's a YouTube video of the E3. It was around E3. I don't know if it was at E3, but of I think it was Jack Tramiel, the CEO of Atari at the time, who unveiled the Jaguar in this really rundown, conference room. Just looked dark, and there was some press there who, didn't really look enthused, and even the employees of Atari who were showing this thing off didn't really look that enthused. But it's a video, and they're unveiling this thing, and they got these big giant like CRT TVs, big screens, a couple of TVs they were showing this thing off of were tiny, so it was weird that you would have these tiny TVs to show off this brand new 64-bit console. Two of the games they showed real briefly was one of them was Alien vs Predator. In that video, they only showed like some walking around. That was it. They showed Trevor McFur in the Crescent Galaxy. That was that like if you're in the press, I don't know what you're thinking. If you're watching this, you got to be like, why? What is going on? So, if you've played if you've played this game, Trevor McFur in the Crescent Galaxy, you would understand what I'm talking about. This game is bad, like just bad. Okay, it's a shooter. It's a side-scrolling shooter. You got a cool, 3D, objects on the screen. That's not bad. When it comes to, you got some asteroids coming at you. They look pretty good looking. Your ship might even look kind of good looking, but everything else about the game, the control, the levels. I mean, one of the levels has like toys in the background and numbers and shapes, and it's like, this is supposed to be a shooter. What is going on in the background here? What is happening? Did they just be like, we need to fill this game out and we need to fill it up, so let's just throw whatever we can at the wall and ship it out? I have no idea, but it was a launch title for the Jaguar, and it was a sign of things to come. It really was. You can even see the artwork, the main characters. I think even the game was meant to kind of rival. Well, I don't know if it was meant to rival it, but it took a bite out of the Star Fox playbook. So Star Fox used like animals as their main characters, and Trevor McFur, the developers, the artists must have seen that and been like, we can do something like that too. And if you see, I don't know, do I have the case here? I have the box back here, but to bring out all the boxes would be a pain. I probably put it in the box, but in any case, he's a Jaguar, and his name's Trevor. He's a Jaguar, and his name's Trevor. I forget his girl's name, but his girlfriend, I guess it's his girlfriend. She's part of the story. She's a character in the game. Is another Jaguar, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but anyway, the game was just bad. But if you own a Jaguar, you got to pick it up because it's a part of the collection. It's a must-have as far as that is concerned. It's a launch title, so. As you can tell, this stream is very, very random. I will bounce all the way around, all over the place. So bear with me. I do have some loose Atari Jaguar games in front of me. The others are kind of sitting right back here in their boxes, if you can see. They're hanging out there. I didn't want to take them all out of the boxes. They're cardboard boxes, and I didn't want to risk just opening one up and then accidentally ripping a box because they're like 25 years old. So let's start with completely at random. I'm just gonna start picking some games out of here. Why not? Alien vs Predator. Okay, this is a game everyone says. Well, forget everyone. When I first picked up the Atari Jaguar in 1997, it had to have been like, I don't know, February, March 97. It was dead. It was already dead. It was on the clearance rack, and it was, I don't know, I can't remember how much it was. It must have been $50, $49.99. And I conned my mom into it somehow, and she bought it for me. I brought it home. I can't remember what game I got. I know Cybermorph was the pack in, and I heard so much about Alien versus Predator, and there were so many Atari Jaguar games on clearance. Anywhere I went, Boscov's, they used to have an electronics department. Boscov's, EB Games, Babbage's, software, etc. In the back, there would always be like these, maybe 5 or so Atari Jaguar games, and I would always pray that one of them, before I got to the shelf, would be Alien versus Predator. Never was. I could never get my hands on it as a youth, and so I would just pick up all the other games I didn't have, anything that was cheap enough, and so I could never get my hands around Alien versus Predator. So long story short, zoom ahead. Oh my God, 20 years. I mean, I finally pull everything out of storage. I always kept everything nice and neat in storage and clean. And finally, I got a game room, which is the world's smallest game room, but whatever, it works. It fits everything. It's organized, or at least if you don't know, behind me, it might not look organized, but it is. Trust me, if you were in here, everything's got a place. You do have room to walk. There's a lane right here to walk. There's a lane back here to walk, and then there's a lane behind me to walk, and then I have my my single chair here behind me. But it is organized, believe it or not. And in any case, when I brought everything out of storage, I cleaned everything up, even more so, because you do get a little dust being in storage. And I got back into buying these old games, So I bought these old games. I went ahead and I was just going on eBay left and right, just picking up some games. And one of them I had to get, Alien vs. Predator. So this is the quintessential first-person shooter to get for the Atari Jaguar. The graphics are out of this world when it comes to what that console can do. The Atari Jaguar console can do. It's the frame rate, whatever. I'm not a frame rate type of person. I mean, as long as I can move around, shoot, and I'm not stuttering like that, I'm okay. And the game doesn't do that. It's just, you get these frame rate lunatics who, want to say, oh, the frame rate is 15, or whatever. Hey, as long as I can play it, I'm fine. And it's playable. So definitely pick this one up. If you're a Jaguar fan, if you're just getting into the Atari Jaguar collecting, you have to get this. You have to get this. This is the game to show off to other people. Like, hey, you want to know what the Jaguar can do? Let's not look at a pinball game. Let's not look at Cybermorph, even though Cybermorph does have some technical greatness to it, and I'll get to that in a minute. But this is the game that says, hey, the Jaguar can push some heavy graphics here. So Alien vs. Predator, first-person shooter, 3 different storylines. So you got the Colonial Marine, you got the Alien, and you got the Predator. So not bad at all there. Pretty deep. So that was my Jaguar Holy Grail. For me personally, it's not a Holy Grail probably for anybody else, because you can find that game on eBay. But for me personally, I've always wanted to get that, and I finally was able to. Moving on, I do have a game in the mail coming to me actively, and this is another first-person shooter for the Jaguar that I've always wanted to get my hands on. And I'm pretty sure I had this game back in the day. I'm pretty sure. And like most games I've kept, but there's always been a few games that for some reason I don't know what happened to them. And that's Doom. Doom for the Atari Jaguar, the best cartridge version of Doom from the early to mid 90s. And I swear I had that game before. But anyway, I've been wanting to pick it up. Graphically, it's impressive. And I certainly look forward to it. I think it should be coming to me probably within the next few days. So, and speaking of Doom, I also have the box here too. It's actually on my wall. It's hanging out just as a showpiece. But Wolfenstein 3D. So you all know exactly what this is. But that's the precursor to Doom by id Software. So first-person shooters, as far as first-person shooters cartridge-based for the Atari Jaguar, Alien vs. Predator, Wolfenstein 3D, and Doom are the games to have, if not the only first-person shooter games. So Jumping on to Fight for Life. Fight for Life is the Atari Jaguar's last game, official game by Atari in North America, actually in the world. So the official last game that was published, developed by Atari, 1996, Fight for Life. It's a 3D fighter. It's awful. It's awful. Awful. Just bad. The story's cool. I think all the fighters are dead, and in order to get back to reality or the Earth from wherever they are, hell, you have to win this tournament. And if you win the tournament, you're back to life. You're fighting for life, essentially, is what the game is called. So, Fight for Life. You also have the ability to, if you beat your opponent, you can steal their moves. I think you can steal 1 or 2 moves, if I'm not mistaken. But the game is very, 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 very slow, very choppy, almost not playable. Almost. You can play it. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, you can't play this game." No, you can play it. It's just very, very choppy, and that's a game where the frame rate is really rough. I don't know what it is. Again, I'm not a frame rate junkie, but I will tell you it's rough, but manageable. Let's just say that. So. Camera angles are tough too. This very, very rough game all around, but it's very impressive to see the Atari Jaguar push these 3D graphics, these polygonal graphics, to say. So, when you have Tekken out on the PlayStation 1, you got Tekken 2 probably out at this time. Fight for Life, again, a cartridge-based 3D fighter, impressive for the Jaguar to even to even get it pulled off. I mean, the 32X did a better job with Virtua Fighter, the Sega 32X. So the Jaguar was struggling, but not a bad game. Definitely pick that game up, Fight for Life. Pick it up for. If you're a collector for the Atari Jaguar, pick this up because it's the last game ever made for the Atari Jaguar officially. So, for that reason alone, I mean, the gameplay is not going to knock your socks off by any means. The other game here, Hover Strike. Hover Strike is, it's got a lot of good texture mapping going on in this game. Very slow, sluggish. Frame rate's not bad. It's playable certainly, but just one of them tank shooters. You know what I mean? So I found that for $10. I was shocked to heck, man, when I went to a farmer's market. One of them flea markets. Went to a flea market. That game was just hidden in a box of games, of like Genesis, PlayStation games. And, I'm always looking for Atari Jaguar games. And if you look for that top there in a Genesis pile, you got something. If you find this and you're like, there's a Jaguar game in here, please don't be something I already have. So I pulled that out and there was a $10 sticker on it. I don't care what the cart inside looks like. Of course I do, but I pulled it out and I'm like, I'm buying it. Especially once I found out that it was a game I did not have. But I had that game when I was a kid. So again, I don't know what happened to it. I don't know where it went. I remember playing it and I don't know. I know that I was lucky, extremely lucky, because you see, back in my old neighborhood, they used to have these yearly annual yard sale, and us kids, I must have been 14, 15 years old, would haul all of our stuff down to this yard sale. Old cards, old baseball cards, football cards, games, accessories, hats, I mean, baseball gloves, football, whatever you can muster your hands on that sometimes you didn't even care if if you had a personal attachment to it. You just hauled it down to this yard sale and you put it up for sale. And sometimes you're a kid, you're just going to put something like a football for $10. Like no one's going to buy that because you're a kid and you're trying to strike it rich. Sometimes you put out really insane deals and you count your lucky stars. No one bought them because I put Jaguar games up for sale for $7, $10, $5. So I'm lucky that I have most of those games back. But if I had to guess where some of these games went, Hover Strike, I just mentioned, Doom, I mentioned earlier, they may have disappeared in that potential purge. So someone may have came up and been like, crap, I only got $20 in my pocket. Let me get these 2 games. And they took, I don't know. I can't remember, but that is possible. And, but I got them back. I'm good. Cybermorph. I said I was going to get to this one. Everybody knows her. Everybody knows she's annoying. She's in the game. She says, where did you learn to fly? A lot. Especially if you bang into something or whatever. So that is a launch title, Cybermorph. And to me, it's very, very impressive that the Jaguar can push 3D graphics like that. So what? The graphics popped up in front of you, 2 feet in front of you. So what? The Jaguar is pushing polygonal graphics in your face. The speed isn't bad. You can go fast. Excuse me. And it's just dull, boring. You know, you're flying all over the place looking for these orbs or these yellow whatever. I forget what they are. You pick them up, and you're fighting enemies along the way who are just looking to shoot you down. That your ship is made of polygons. You know, it's a 3D flyer, so you can fly all over. You know what I mean? You can go up and down. You can go up to a certain point, like not too far, and down towards where you're hovering the ground. But if you stay down there, you run the risk of running into mountains where you're going to hear, "Where did you learn to fly?" So Cybermorph wasn't very fun, but it is a technical showpiece, if you ask me. You know, so much like Star Fox is a technical showpiece for the Super Nintendo. This was a technical showpiece, and that's why it was probably the pack-in game. Some people say, "Oh, you know, why would you pick this for a pack-in game?" Probably because it's showing off what the Jaguar can do as far as 3D is concerned. Sure, they didn't have a Mario or a Sonic to run off with, or put out with, but they probably could have. I don't know if Rayman was available yet. No, Rayman's probably a couple of years off, but that was Ubisoft's guy anyway. So anyway, Cybermorph isn't bad at all. It's a good game. Next up, Pinball. Ruiner Pinball. There's another pinball game out for the Jaguar. I forget what it's called, but Ruiner Pinball. I think there's 2 tables, multi-level tables, so you can go higher. Ruiner's not bad. It's fun. It's pinball. What can I say? I bought that at a convention. This one I also at the same convention. See, Supercross 3D. All right, Supercross 3D. Another game I had, and it disappeared over time. So when I went to the convention, I had this game in mind to look for, to find. It's a small convention, very small convention. And I said, I'm looking for Jaguar games. In my head, I said, before, when I get there, I'm going to be looking for Jaguar games, of course. And one of them would be Supercross 3D. So, to my delight, I mean, absolute delight was when I found that at one of the first tables I got to. I got into this convention. I immediately started looking for Atari Jaguar games, and this one was just sitting right there with Ruiner Pinball, which I knew I had to get that too. But I immediately said, "How much for this? How much for this?" I can't remember what he said. 15, 20. Dropped it instantly, and I still can't believe it. Like that was the game, because when I was a kid, Supercross 3D, you know, I wanted it. I hate the game was awful, but I remember it being a 3D racer that the Jaguar was pushing, and when I got back into the collecting, I knew Supercross 3D was a game that the Jaguar had no business trying to run. The boards, the levels, the racetracks are polygonal, so you got polygons. The textured map ground outside of the ground is not textured map, so it's just brown. Every map, every stadium is the same crowd, same layout. Tracks are different. Tracks are different colors, but that's about it. Different shades of gray and brown are the tracks. It's a neat little TV screen in the background that you can see yourself driving on. That was pretty cool for the Jaguar to run. But this game's now. Let's talk about frame rates. I don't know what the frame rate is, but it's awful. It's really bad. The game. If you're a frame rate junkie, you're not going to like it at all. You're going to be like, this is unplayable. I can't do it. For me, I was able to play it, deal with it. You know what I mean? I was able to deal with the frame rate problems. But it is very choppy, very, very choppy. So check out some videos on Supercross 3D. If you're a collector, you got to pick it up. I mean, it's again, another game that has polygons that the Jaguar has no business trying to run. And, is one of those games that, you have to get for the system to, stretch your system's legs, if you will. So Raiden, whatever, top-down shooter, original Raiden, whatever. And, you all know what this one is, just like Wolfenstein. I have no need to mention what this game's about, how to play it, whatever. It's a game that runs really well, plays really well. It's just classic, you know what I mean? So it's really not doing anything crazy. There's this little sidebar. You got your main screen, and then like eating up a quarter of the screen, if not almost half of the screen, is a scoreboard. You got how many lives you have, your score. Some graphics on there. Now, let me get to one of the absolute worst Atari Jaguar games. Now, the worst, all right? And I still didn't get to the absolute worst. The worst. Like, this is one of the worst. I didn't get to the worst yet, which is boxed up back here. And I'll do another video with all the boxed games, I promise. These are all my loose Jaguar games. So stay tuned for that. But this is one of the worst games I've ever played. Kasumi Ninja. Now, some people might say, I love it, whatever. I mean, that's your opinion. Great, lock it out. I don't care. Kasumi Ninja, to me, is trash. But it's good enough for the collection because it is that bad. It is notorious is why it needs to be in your collection. I mean, you got a guy shooting fireballs from under his kilt. Okay? From under his kilt. And that's assuming you can even pull off the special moves. Now, I've never been a fighter fan. I've dabbled in your Mortal Kombat. I've stunk up the place in Street Fighter. I love Soul Calibur, and I'm terrible at Tekken. So when consuming it, but I can still pull off a couple of moves. You know what I mean? Like if I have to do down, right, left, A, B, whatever, I can manage that. I'm just not quick enough to do it in succession to actually win a match against a human, perhaps, let alone the computer. But the special moves are damn near impossible to pull off in this game. And I mean that. It is. you'd have to practice to finally maybe even get into a groove of rhythm of pulling off a couple of special moves. Um, this game's tough when it comes to the control. It's bad. Control is bad. Graphics are, I mean, I honestly would say that the Sega Genesis, any one of the Sega Genesis Mortal Kombat's 1, 2, 3, Ultimate, have better graphics than this game. It's a Mortal Kombat clone. Simple as that. It has digitized characters of real actors. So just poor. The gameplay's poor. You'll play it for 10 minutes, and if you even get that far, and just be done with it. But it is notorious because of the crotch shooting fireball and how laughable the gameplay is and whatnot. So it does belong in a collection. You can find it for like $20 or less. So that's that. This is my Atari Jaguar loose collection. Again, I have some box titles back here that I will show off later in another video. But if you guys have any questions, comments, whatever, I'll try to get to them. Just leave them down here in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks, guys.